Hey, friends. Welcome back to another episode of God-Sized Dreams. I'm your host, Melissa Batt, Christian life coach, faith mentor, here to help you just be real with your feelings, how you're doing, and all the things. I have so much I still want to tell you. I'm sitting in the car. This is another unscripted, unedited podcast of me just chatting with you like you're one of my friends. Um, and so I was like, where do I start? There's so much. There's so much. There's so much. I want to share with you two things. I'm like, okay, which one? Where do I go? I want to talk to you about this area that I've been talking about on the podcast. I did an episode on overthinking, but honestly, I feel like that episode isn't so much about overthinking, but about this coping mechanism of trying to control things. And that's a lesson that God has been walking me in very gently with mercy and compassion because He knows how hard this is for me. And so let's chat about that, shall we? We're gonna go there again. All right. So this happened like the episode before the one I just did talking about the marriage mentor coach. Um, there was an episode, I think it's titled something about overthinking. I'm telling you, the name is wrong. It really is about controlling situations. And so this happened shortly after I recorded that episode. Like the God just continued to walk me through and show me all these areas where I'm trying to control. And he's like, girl, like I don't need you to do this. Like just leave this to me. No wonder I'm tired all the time trying to think through all of these things that I'm trying to control. Like, what if this happens? Or what if this happens? Or what if this happens? Yes, it is a lot of brain power and like capacity that I don't have time for, that causes a lot of overthinking, but really the root of it is not trusting and trying to control areas that are not meant for me to be in control of. And so I'm going to take you back to the day that I found out um my son and his wife was having their baby. Okay. So again, God's been working on me on this, and I'm like, Lord, just help me, show me. Like, I'm trying really hard, but sometimes, like, I don't know why I do it. And I don't know that I'm doing it at the time. And what I've realized, and I actually talk about this in the Jesus Laughs book, because sometimes God gives you the words to write before you have, like, actively conquered that thing. And my book is all about my chapter in the book, Jesus Laughs, the women's devotional, is all about like giving up the imitations that I allowed in that replaced God, even though a lot of it was unintentionally. I talk about some trauma in my chapter and basically from a very, very young age, I learned that I couldn't trust people. And I think I started trying to protect myself and also protecting others that probably should have been protecting me. But everyone has their own stuff they're going on. And also, I don't know that I had words to communicate what was actually happening at that time. And so I, oh gosh, like yesterday, I was talking to um, someone who I was sharing, like, when it comes to Jesus Laughs Women's Devotional, I'm struggling a little bit with sharing it with family. And I learned yesterday why that is, because I feel like it's what's coming next. And I don't have to worry about tomorrow. I only have to be present in today. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be where my feet are, but also I can feel that nudge for God to say, just lean in a little bit, just lean in a little bit more here. This is not part of what I was going to talk to you about. And if you were seeing the video, like tears come to my eyes immediately because I'm like, oh gosh, we're going there already. So, trigger warning. And I guess this episode is not going to be something that you want to share with kids around. I didn't know we were doing that today, sitting in the parking lot for a few at routine camp for my daughter. I'm the team mom, so I'm going to go in and help afterwards. This is me stalling for you to get the kids who shouldn't be listening to this out of the way. Just a heads up. It's not a complete rabbit trail that I'm following or squirrel moment. It's me giving you time to be like, all right, let me get to the pause button and not let my kids hear this. So um in the book, again, I don't allude to a lot of details because I don't want, like, the focus isn't my story. It's to see, like, the things, maybe the lessons that I've learned, and see how that lesson can be applied to your life also. Like, where is control showing up for you? I have spent a lot of time in my life, like, I developed a lot of very unhealthy habits from a very young age because and again, like, I didn't grow up in church. I didn't have, like, I feel like in my family, I'm kind of the first to go to church. I've learned since then that my dad grew up in church, and my dad and I have a very good relationship now. But I know, like, two things that I want to say, like, this is really hard for me to talk about. My earliest memory is probably when I was about 4 years old, and it's uh, it's my mom and dad fighting, and I don't know. I've never had this verified, but I think there was some fighting, and wow, I don't remember my dad ever being physical whatsoever, ever. Like, this memory doesn't make sense for what I know of my dad. And so again, I'm like, was this my dad? Was this somebody else? I don't really know. And I don't think I've had the guts to ask anybody, but the memory is of a man who I think is my dad, holding my mom up against the wall, yelling at her, and, like, his arms around her neck. Like, he was really mad. And again, that is not the character of my dad. I love my dad. My dad and I have a great relationship now. He is the most gentle human being. Like, I killed a snake and I sent him a picture of the snake I killed, and he's like, that's God's creature. What are you doing? And so I just want you to know, like, that is not my dad's character, but this is the memory that I have from when I was 4. And my dad used to he used to drink a lot. And so I don't know if that's what it's related to. My mom is not perfect. But this is like an earliest memory. I was around 4 years old. I remember vividly what was happening, like where I was. It was in the kitchen. It was in this little town where my dad had a trailer, and like I can see the wall where it was happening at. And so I'm like, is that like there is truth to it. I know there is. That's one of the incidents that I remember as a little girl. I also know that shortly around that time, I believe there was some kind of sexual abuse. God has not allowed me to know the details, but I know that there is. I've since, like, had conversations with my abuser, and because he's still around, and we've talked about it. And so while I don't know the details, I know it did happen, and I did not make that up. There's actually a lot of sexual abuse in my family, and I think it's generation from generation to generation. I believe it's with a lot of my cousins. It's, it's run rampant in my family. And so when I say that from a very young age, I learned how to protect myself, um, like I think the unhealthy coping mechanisms and it was all just me trying to cope with extremely hard things that no child should ever have to deal with. And so I say all that to say God knows, and He has been so gentle with me as I have been uncovering layers and layers of deep wounds. And He has been walking with me on this journey of just healing. And His mercy is good. And He's helping me become free of things that I didn't even know I needed to be free from. That's how good God is. And so I settled for a lot of imitations, and He's like, you have the true source. You have me. You don't need to live like this anymore. And so, like control issues, trying to protect myself, protecting other people, running, avoiding hard things, comfort food. Like, I mean, we have went layer by layer by layer of just destroying these idols that I didn't even know were idols because I didn't like it was all I knew for a really long time. And so that's kind of the journey where we've been. And so God has been like working on me and convicting me of these control issues. And there was a morning that I woke up and, you think it's going to be just like every other day. And it's hilarious actually. Um, by 11 a.m. the same day, my husband was putting his 2-week notice in because he had gotten a new job. And I still, because even though it was a good job, it's like $20,000 more than what he was making. Benefits are amazing. I feel like it's truly an answer from God. Like I'm still like asking all these questions. Like, you need to check on this, you need to check on this, you need to check on this. Again, am I letting him lead? No, but because I'm like terrified of the worst case scenario and I'm always looking for that shoe to drop, right? I think that's the saying. Like something's going to go wrong and we got to do our best to make sure nothing goes wrong. Even though I know, like I have prayed, I feel confirmation, I feel like the Lord has shown me in my spirit, like this is good, this is godly, this is the move that is from me. I am taking you here. It is going to be good. This is the step you take. I was still trying to like make sure we dot our I's and we cross our T's and we're not misreading anything. I had 15,000 questions because he's going to have to travel like once a month. And I'm like, okay, are they going to pay for that? Like, is that where this extra $20,000 is going to be gone? And then we're going to still be like out money because now you're going to be traveling and having to pay for all that. Is all that cut? Like I was asking so many questions. And that morning he's like, they want me to start this day. So I need to put my 2-week notice in today. I had that text. I would say by 7:30 in the morning that had happened. And then shortly after that, he sends me a text. It's my husband again, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, Ryla and Emmeline wrecked on the way to school. They're okay though. They ran off the road." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, okay. And then I get a text from someone who's like, "Is Brooklyn okay?" And I was like, "What do you mean, is Brooklyn okay?" Brooklyn is my daughter-in-law who was pregnant and was about to have a baby, but she was not due until Mother's Day weekend, and this was the end of April, and so she wasn't quite due yet. And so I was like, I mean, I think so. So fast forward through, all the things. By 11 o'clock, I realized that Eric 2-week notice, done. Like, I don't get to ask more questions. Like, it's happening, and we're just trusting and not going to continue to ask 50,000 questions. My son ran off the road, and I had texted my daughter and was like, "Hey, are you guys okay? Dad said you guys ran off the road." And she's like, "We didn't run off the road. We full on crashed." And like, because he made it sound like they just, ran off the road, and she's like, "No, we crashed." Like, she sent me pictures of the car. It was rough looking, the whole side, completely, like, not in good shape. um but it was in a field. Didn't hurt anything, didn't hurt anybody. Probably, I don't know if legally I'm supposed to say this, but it was like, there was no injuries, there was no damage except for to the car. My husband was like, "We're not turning this in on insurance." So technically, I guess they left the scene of the accident and went on to school. I can't believe I'm saying this publicly, but I think since there's no damage or anything except for to the car, it's fine. All right, so then I find out that Brooklyn is at the hospital and she's in labor. Now, they had not told me this, like, but they also wanted it to be private and didn't want anyone to know until they knew for sure all the things. And so I didn't find out till like 5 p.m. that night that she was at the hospital having the baby. And as I was like processing, because I was stressed out to the max, this is like what I felt like I heard God say. "Look, all of this happened, and I did not need you to concern yourself with any of it. I have it. I have you. You were not necessary, because I am God and you are not." Lovingly, gently, not in a way of like just being a jerk, but like just lovingly, like, "Let me do what I do." Like a father would say to a daughter, "You don't have to be stressing yourself with these things. No wonder you're so stressed out. It's not necessary. It's not beneficial to you, because I am sovereign. I am the Lord of Lords, King of Kings, and I am faithful. I can move mountains. Rocks will speak. Donkeys will speak. I can tell a donkey and the donkey will listen. And donkeys are stubborn, like all the things." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I did not need to concern myself with those things." And it was so good. And do I still find myself wanting to get into those situations and freak out and try to, like, make sure everything's going to be okay, and, ask all the questions and concern myself with the details? Yes. But again, God is gentle and he is patient, he is loving, and he is kind. And he's like, "If you would just listen to me, your life would be so much easier." Like, those burdens were not meant for you to carry. Yes, there are some things that God asks me to carry. Yes, there are some times when God gives me the ability to, feel the things that other people are going through so that I can intercede. That is a word for someone. For those of you who would call yourself an empath, or an empath, as I call it, you know, I think God gives us the ability to feel other people's emotions, not so we will just carry it for them, but so we can specifically pray for them and know exactly how to pray, because it's like he gives us the ability to be in their shoes. And so the problem is we hold on to that instead of surrendering it to the one who knows and cares and does all the things with it. And so, it's like we are called to, serve where we can serve, but more importantly, pray, because God can do what more than we ever can. And so we need to like surrender all of that stress that we're holding on to. And recently, even again, he gave me this vision of like me plowing a field, like in the old days, or maybe the Amish, like in the verse. I wish I had my journal with me. It's the verse. It's hilarious. I screw this verse up all the time. And I've talked about it on my podcast or on the podcast in my stories. Like I've talked about it so many times where it's where his yoke is easy and his burden is light. That's the way it's supposed to be. And I feel like the yoke is the thing that, like I'm not a farmer, but it's the thing that they put on the horses typically, and the horses like pull and do the work in the fields back in the day, or maybe the Amish still do this. Some people still do it. Anyways, but I felt like God gave me this vision of me doing that. I am pulling all of this stuff, trying to do all that work. And Jesus is standing in front of me like, sister, daughter, like what are you doing? Like, hand it to me. Like, I died for you, and you don't have to carry all of that stuff. Let me have it. And I like envision, like I have this moment, and I actually went to Chat GPT because I went to Google trying to find some images of what I was trying to like what I felt like I was seeing. And so I went into Chat GPT and I like described it, and they gave me like a word picture, not a word picture, like it does have words, but like an illustration of what it like looked like, of me in this field, like dirty and tired and just exhausted from trying to do all of this on my own. And then there's Jesus, and he's like holding his hand out saying like, just give it to me. And then there's a picture of me giving it, like handing it to him and surrendering it and like letting it go. And this like heaviness lifting. And I think that's for everybody. We just don't always, we're not sensitive to what we're actually carrying. And that's my mission, to help us become more sensitive on what we're carrying that God is asking us to surrender. He's walking me through this process. And, as a coach who has basically been sat down for a good season, is like, okay, like, yes, you like have all of these giftings and these strengths to serve my people and to help my people, but I also want you just to sit at my feet and glean from me and rest and heal. That's the season I've been in, and I feel like I'm finally, hallelujah, like coming out of that season. But also at the same time, the transition is so hard because it's such a sweet time of true intimacy and rest and refuge and slowness. But at the same time, I know there's so many of you who are struggling in this as well. And if I can help you, I want to. I want to help you. I want to help you understand what you're carrying that you don't need to carry anymore, because it was never meant for you to carry in the first place. But we are humans, and in our flesh, like we are stubborn, and in our sin, we are stubborn, and we're like tight-fisted holding onto these things because, for some of us, ourselves seem to be the only person that we could trust. But also at the same time, it's like a false trust because I let myself down all the time. But God doesn't. God doesn't let me down. He is like not even once, even the hard things that I have had to walk through. And I'm talking hard. I talk a lot about, I forgot, like, I talk a lot about things on this podcast, but I forgot about Operation Reset. And this isn't really an ad, but I will tell you that Operation Reset is a free workshop that I do. And I'm working with a new client, and I told her that it would be very helpful if she went through Operation Reset one-on-one clients get the VIP experience for free. So she's going through the VIP experience and like watching the videos, and I forgot about some of the stories that I share there. And I was talking to her about it, and she's like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know many of those things that like you've walked through specifically around my children. And she was just very grateful that I was willing to go there and be real, because I don't just give, I don't want to ever just tell you what to do. I feel like part of my gifting is showing you what to do. And I give a lot of examples of like what I have walked through, what God has taught me, and how it's transformed my life, but also like all the things that got in the way in between, like when God tried to show me something and I'm like, but what about this, but what about this, if you're the girl who's like, but I don't know how. That's me. um and in that, I feel like God has shown me how, and I do a very good job of teaching the how. And so, again, Operation Reset, completely free. Um, you'll get to know a little bit more of my story and some of the harder things I've walked through. Um, Not just myself, but also with my kids, because it's one thing for us to go through things, but when our kids go through things, and that's one of the areas where, like, I remember feeling at one point like, God, like, I was so mad at God. Like, why could he let this happen? If he is good, how could this happen? And I was so angry. And now I'm, 7 years. It's been 7 years since that moment. I remember sitting on my front porch, and this is I think how I'm going to leave this, because I've been wanting to share with you um some of the stories from the Firebrand conference that I went to, and this is kind of one of the things that God revealed. I've been in this like hesitation, like I'm coming out of a season and I know it, like I can feel it in my bones. I'm coming out of the season of rest, and God's like, it's almost time for you to run again. And hustling and running look different, but all are they are different, but they look similar. But one is running away from God and avoiding God and doing everything on your own, and the other one like is like running with God. I'm running his race that he has set for me. And in that, I was praying because, like, when you just sense like there's something there and you're like, what is it? And I'm like, God, why am I still hesitating? And he showed me like there's this fear there, because the last time that I was so on fire for the Lord was 2019. And I was, in my opinion, very naive, and wanted to have like create a small group at my house for my neighborhood, and just wanted to like serve God and help his people. And it was in this time that the enemy came to attack. And I had just came out of a pit. Like we had moved from South Carolina to Kentucky. I felt like I had just gone through like a wilderness season. I didn't know that's what it was at the time, but like I'd gone through the funk. I'd been in the pit. I had to like work so hard to climb out of it. And like I was so on fire for God again. And then this thing happened that I've talked about on the podcast. I just don't feel like going into it right now. And I remember like I like, as I was praying, like, Lord, show me like what's going on here? Like, why am I resisting? Why am I hesitating? Like, I can feel it. Like, I feel like I'm self-sabotaging, and why am I self-sabotaging? Because I know like I have this burden
for women. And I feel like he's given me all these puzzle pieces, and I can now see all the pieces, and I feel like the pieces are all there. And now it's just like, okay, roll up your sleeves, let's get to work. And I'm like, Lord, like, why am I still hesitating? Why am I self-sabotaging? And I saw, as I was praying, the video, this picture of me on my porch, sobbing, terrified, and so mad at God. Like, I think it was the first time that I vocalized. I was doing a live video, and the live video wasn't really supposed to be about what I was talking about, but all of a sudden I was like, just gonna be real and tell you where I'm at. Sitting on the porch, I had just, I think, probably walked, because I was doing this walk to the mailbox challenge and challenging people to move their bodies. And I sat down, and like I was triggered because there was an incident that had happened with my neighbor. Um, and it just didn't seem fair. And so I was sitting on my porch and I was mad. And I'm pretty sure in that live, I was like, I'm just pissed off. Like, I'm pissed off and I'm mad. And I just don't understand why God would let this happen. And also at the root of it was this fear of, like, I had just came out of a funk, and I was terrified that I would go back into a funk and into the pit of just despair and depression and the anxiety and the overwhelm. And for the record, I'm 7 years from that. And I did. It was the hardest thing I have ever walked through. We're talking, I needed therapy. I wasn't sleeping. My anxiety was so bad, I couldn't let my kids leave the house. At one point, I was making them sleep in my room, the younger ones. I would have like these moments where it was like almost I could see things happening. I thought one of my fears was that my daughter was going to be sex trafficked and someone was going to come kidnap her. Another one was that this teenage boy that, if I don't think I've shared this part, but like the teenage boy like situation that I'm referring to, if you've been here for a while. If not, go back and listen to some other episodes, or Operation Reset. I'm sure I probably talk about it. Anyways, I was worried that he would want to um, take himself out, but before he did, he'd want to take all of us out. So I was worried that he would like just come shoot us all up and kill us all. And like when I tell you those things, the fear was so intense. And so at this intensive or this conference, there's this moment and I'm praying and I'm like, God, show me. And he showed me that of me sitting on that porch crying. And that part of my hesitation is fear that like will happen again. Because the last time I was ready to run the race, like everything was like just came crashing down. And I feel like, again, it's a fear because like it's no, like you have done the work. You have not taken the shortcuts. And some people, depending on where you are in your relationship with God, you might be like, but like, how can you love God and trust him when he let that happen? And I think because I know him like a father now, as someone who hasn't always had the best father role, I mean, like a loving father. I understand that he didn't cause it, but he will use it. And he's all knowing and knew that I would be here. I would get to the point where I am today, where I can trust him fully and also be healed. The healing of, like, at that point, it was through this last 7 years that I realized that I had been sexually abused. Part of the reason why it had triggered me so bad, and I had gotten to the point that I did, is because I didn't fully understand or recognize that I had been sexually abused. And so that's why I ended up having to go, like, I went to therapy. Like, I had to ask hard questions. And, I've talked about some of these. Like, one of the things I had to ask my therapist was, like, is it normal to make out with your siblings? Because I thought that was normal. And I remember at one point, like, I knew I didn't want my kids to be making out with each other. So I knew that was wrong, to some extent, but also it was like there was just something there where I was like, but this is how I grew up. And I remember I had even had a conversation with a friend one day, and I told my friend, like, hey, like, I did this, and like, is that normal? Like, did you like, did this happen to you also? And she had said yes. And so I was like, oh, okay. Which God has now shown me, just because something looks normal doesn't mean it's healthy, and it doesn't mean it's the way it's supposed to be. But I think, there are a lot of us who have been sexually abused, and have gone through things that was not ever the way things are supposed to be. And I do believe, like, God is bringing it to light. And yesterday I was, like, really hesitant about my book, and like family reading it and stuff like that. And I think this is why. Like, I sense something, and, like, just uncomfortable. And I think it's because, like, God has shown me that, I'm a cycle breaker. I'm breaking the cycle. It's not going to continue. And it's not continuing in, like, my lineage. I'm not passing this down to my kids. I'm doing the freaking work. And my mission is to help some other women do the work so they don't pass it down to their kids either. But even more importantly, like, my heart, like, and I feel like part of my call is also to help other people that are in my family who have gone through these things, who haven't yet either been aware of what went wrong or what happened in their life, or they did, but they weren't brave enough, or they didn't have enough courage, or have the know-how to, like, how to manage it, how to navigate it. Which, for the record, you don't manage it, we do navigate it. And so, and navigating it with God, right? That's how we get healing. That's true healing. The rest is like putting a band-aid on it. And so I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling now. So I'm gonna go. But I know this is a heavy episode and was never intended to be this heavy, but I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for those who get the Jesus Laughs devotional. I'm excited for those I get to work with. I am continuing to stand firm on God's word and know that I don't have to worry about tomorrow. I don't need to have fear of the future. I can laugh and have joy and live in today and be where my feet are, which is another word that God just continue. Like, just be where your feet are. Don't worry about tomorrow. Like, don't get in your head over that. Like, today is only thing we're focusing on. And so I'm doing that. And while I'm sometimes still hesitant, and I'm still, I'm human, so I'm going to self sabotage. I'm also trying really, really hard not to operate from fear in my life, to continue to say yes to the Lord, say yes to having hard conversations, say yes to sharing my story. And, like, this whole podcast episode, oh my gosh, like, hard, hard things, friends. It's not comfortable, like, any of it. I shared probably 15 areas that at one point I would have felt so much shame around, but it only takes saying it one time out loud for the enemy to be exposed and the shame to like the shame is gone. I'm it makes me uncomfortable. And yeah, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm like afraid of like the judgment that's going to come from other people, but I'm not going to operate from it and I'm not going to stop. I'm going to continue talking about it because there are a lot of women who are going through similar things. And I know that I can help them. Maybe it's you who's listening here. And so I would just say reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out. If you're listening to this episode and there's something here that's resonated with you, like I would be honored to walk with you. I don't do what I do to make money. However, God has shown me that time is not limitless. And if I'm going to spend time like walking people through this, like I've got to be able to, you know, pay someone to clean my house because that would be what I needed to be doing instead. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, but this is not I think God is so good that He would allow me to live in my like and work within my gifts and make money from it. But I'm not doing this to get rich. Honestly, when I first started coaching, and said, if I could do anything in the world, what would I do? Money not being an issue. I said, coach women all day and every day because I love it. I didn't even know you could get paid for it. Now I know like this is a business, and can be a business. And it's the like the sweetness of the Lord to allow me to use my passions and use the pain that I've gone through to help others. And so thank you for listening. If you want to chat, let's set up a call. You can look at my website. I have some things that I offer that are not on my website. So just send me a message. Look me up on like my DMs. Get on my email list, friends. Get on my email list. I send out pep talks every week. I do a move playlist every month. And I think that some of the offerings are at the very bottom of the email. I just like kind of finagle things and change that up. And come to move meetups. Those are free. 9 a.m. Tuesdays locally and Thursdays online. I'm actually recording this during move meetup time because nobody showed up. And so listen, it would be, you know, especially the first few times as I'm about to start marketing it again, but I currently have not been in a season of really marketing it well. And so, and it would be an opportunity for you to basically get a free one-on-one call, just me and you hanging out. No promises, not guaranteed that I'm going to be able to do that. But right now, 9 a.m. Thursdays online, move meetups, a great place to start. But also you are worthy of the work. And we spend money on a lot of things that don't benefit us. Maybe it's time that you think about investing in you, your mental health, your family, your legacy, the work that God wants you to do. Because I will tell you that the women that God is calling me to serve are called to do similar things as what I'm currently doing. And I think that's part of the partnership of what he is doing. He gave me Isaiah 61, go read it. I lead like my mission is to like lead the blind and the poor, maybe the spiritually poor, emotionally poor, but lead them to health out of the darkness so that they can then go rebuild and restore. Because you, friend, are also called to build and restore and do this work in your own family, in your own community, in your own ministries. And so, anyway, that's it. Have a great day. We'll chat again soon.